The shuttle doors opened and Elena Vasquez stepped onto Station Prometheus 7 for the first time. Cold recycled air hit her face. The smell was strange, like metal and something sweet she could not name. All around her, aliens of different shapes and sizes walked through the massive docking bay. Some had scales, some had fur, some had too many eyes. None of them looked at her with friendly faces. Elena was 22 years old. She had dark hair cut short and brown skin, marked with small scars from a childhood spent fighting in the rough streets of São Paulo. She was not tall. She was not wide. But there was something in the way she moved, something careful and watchful, like a cat walking through unfamiliar territory. She was one of only 3 humans ever accepted into the Galactic Union Military Academy. Humanity had joined the Union just 5 years ago. To most aliens, humans were still a mystery. They came from Earth, a planet the Union classified as a death world because of its dangerous weather, deadly animals, and the strange fact that humans had spent most of their history killing each other. A service drone floated toward her and projected a map in the air. Her quarters were on level 14. Her first class was in 2 hours. Tactical theory. Classroom 14C. Elena picked up her bag and started walking. The station was enormous. Curved hallways stretched in every direction. Thousands of cadets from hundreds of species lived and trained here. Elena passed a group of tall, thin beings with silver skin who whispered as she walked by. She heard the word human and something else that her translator could not process. Probably an insult. She did not react. She had learned long ago that reacting to insults only made things worse. Her quarters were small but clean. A bed, a desk, a small window showing the stars outside. She unpacked quickly. 3 uniforms. Training clothes. A small photograph of her grandfather, now 10 years dead. He had been a soldier too, back on Earth. He had taught her everything important. 2 hours later, she stood outside classroom 14C. The door slid open and noise spilled out. The room was large, with curved seats arranged in rising rows like a theater. Most of the seats were already filled, and most of the cadets filling them were Krethaks. Elena had read about the Krethaks during her journey to the station. They were a warrior species, reptilian in appearance, standing over 2 meters tall with thick scales and claws on their hands and feet. They had dominated galactic military affairs for 300 years. They believed in strength above all things. They believed the strong had the right to rule the weak. 20 Krethaks sat in the classroom now. They turned to look at her as she entered. Their eyes were yellow with black slits, and every single pair was watching her. The instructor stood at the front of the room. He was a Valkyrie, a species known for their intelligence. He had gray skin, 4 arms, and no expression that Elena could read. "Ah," he said. "The human. Find a seat." Elena looked around the room. She saw a few other species scattered among the Krethaks. A pair of Morani, small insectoid beings with delicate antennae, sat near the front. They looked nervous. A single Threll, a 4-armed species covered in brown fur, sat alone in the middle rows. The Krethaks had taken all the best seats. They spread their large bodies wide, making it clear that no one was welcome near them. Elena walked to the back corner of the room. There was an empty seat there, partially hidden by a support pillar. She sat down. One of the Krethaks laughed. "Look at the soft skin. She hides in the corner like prey." Other Krethaks joined the laughter. The instructor said nothing. Elena did not respond. She was not hiding. She was positioning. From this corner, she could see every entrance. She could see every person in the room. No one could approach her from behind. Her grandfather had taught her this. Always know your exits. Always watch the room. The person who sees everything is the person who survives. The class began. The instructor talked about fleet formations and battle strategy. Elena listened and took notes. The material was not difficult. Humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. Much of what the instructor described, Earth militaries had already learned and forgotten and learned again. During the lecture, she watched the Krethax. They had a clear hierarchy. The largest one sat in the center of their group. He had darker scales than the others and a scar running across his snout. When he spoke, the others listened. When he moved, they made room. His name, she learned, was Dexoran. He was the son of a Krethax war leader. He expected to command fleets someday. He expected everyone to treat him like he already did. Halfway through the class, one of the Morani cadets got up to use the waste facilities. As he walked past the Krethax section, Dexoran extended his leg and tripped him. The Morani fell hard, his delicate body crashing against the floor. The Krethax laughed. The instructor glanced over, then looked away. He said nothing. The Morani picked himself up slowly. One of his antennae was bent at a painful angle. He hurried out of the room without looking back. Elena watched all of this. Her face showed nothing, but inside, something cold began to form. The class ended. Cadets filed out. Elena waited until most had left before she stood. As she walked toward the door, Dexoran stepped into her path. He was huge. His head nearly touched the ceiling. His scales were thick as armor. His claws looked like they could tear through metal. "Human," he said. "I have heard stories about your species. They say you are survivors. They say you come from a death planet." He leaned down until his face was close to hers. His breath smelled like rotting meat. "But I think you are just soft. I think you are weak. I think you will not last 1 month here." Elena looked up at him. She did not step back. She did not blink. "Maybe," she said quietly. "We will see." Dexoran laughed and stepped aside to let her pass. As she walked away, she heard him talking to his friends. "Placement challenges," he said. "After hours. The training room. I think we should show the human how things work here." Elena kept walking. She did not look back, but she had heard every word. And she would not forget. That night she lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the Morani with the bent antenna. She thought about the instructor who had done nothing. She thought about Dexoran and his laughing friends. She had come here to learn. She had come here to make humanity proud. She had not come here to fight. But if they wanted a fight, she would give them one. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. The best fight is the one you avoid, but some fights cannot be avoided. And when that happens, you fight to win. You fight like your life depends on it. Because it probably does. Elena closed her eyes. Tomorrow would be another day. The news spread through the station like fire through dry grass. By morning, everyone knew. The human cadet had challenged the Krethax. Not one of them. All 10. At once, most thought she was crazy. Some thought she was brave. A few thought she was already dead and just did not know it yet. Elena spent the day as she spent any other day. She went to morning class. She took notes. She ate her meals. But inside her head, she was calculating 10 Krethax. Each one stood more than 2 meters tall. Each one weighed at least 140 kilograms. Each one had claws that could tear through flesh like paper. Each one had scales that could stop a knife. Each one had been trained for combat since they could walk, and she was one human woman. 63 kilograms with no claws, no scales. No natural weapons at all. On paper, she had no chance. But fights did not happen on paper. The 2 other human cadets at the academy found her during the midday break. Their names were Marcus and Jin. Marcus was tall and dark-skinned, from a military family in Nigeria. Jin was shorter and quieter, an engineer from Singapore who had joined the academy to build warships, not fight in them. They pulled her into an empty corridor. "You cannot do this," Marcus said. His voice was urgent. "Elena, this is suicide." 10 Krethaks? "They will kill you." "They will not kill me," Elena said calmly. "The Academy has rules. Death matches are forbidden. They will hurt you very badly then. Broken bones. Internal bleeding. You could be crippled for life." Elena shrugged. "Maybe." Jin stepped forward. "Why? Why are you doing this? Because of the Marani? He is not even your species. He is nothing to you." Elena looked at Jin with cold eyes. "He is my friend." "That is not nothing." "Then report what happened. Tell the instructors. Let them handle it. The instructors do nothing. You have seen it. Everyone has seen it. The Krethaks do whatever they want, and no one stops them. No one ever stops them." Elena's voice hardened. Until now, Marcus and Jin looked at each other. They could see there was no changing her mind. "At least tell us your plan," Marcus said. "How do you expect to fight 10 of them?" Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "The Krethaks are warriors. They have been warriors for 300 years. They train against other species who fight like they do. Direct attacks. Straight lines. Honor and rules." She paused. "But humans do not fight like that. We never have. On Earth, we learn to fight dirty. We learn to use everything around us as a weapon. We learned that there is no such thing as a fair fight. There is only winning and losing." "That sounds like wishful thinking," Jin said. "Maybe, but there is something else." Elena's eyes grew distant. "The Krethaks have never fought a human before. They do not know what we can do. They do not know about adrenaline, the chemical our bodies make when we are in danger. It makes us faster and stronger and able to ignore pain. They do not know about our flexibility, how our joints can bend in ways theirs cannot. They do not know about our endurance, how we can keep fighting long after their muscles give up." She looked at them steadily. "They think they know what I am. They are wrong. And by the time they understand their mistake, it will be too late." Marcus shook his head slowly. "You are either the bravest person I have ever met or the craziest." "Probably both," Elena said. And for the first time that day, she smiled. The afternoon passed slowly. Elena returned to her quarters and prepared Dot. She stretched for 1 hour. Every muscle, every joint. She made her body as loose and flexible as possible. Tight muscles meant slow movements. Slow movements meant death. She drank water. Lots of water. Dehydration would weaken her. She could not afford weakness. She did not eat. Her grandfather had taught her this. Never fight on a full stomach. Digestion takes blood away from your muscles. Stay hungry. Hungry fighters are dangerous fighters. She looked at herself in the mirror. Short, dark hair. Brown eyes. Scars on her knuckles from fights she had won and fights she had lost. She was not impressive to look at. She was not big or muscular or intimidating, but looks meant nothing. What mattered was inside. She thought about her grandfather. He'd been a small man too, but he had survived wars that killed bigger, stronger men. He had survived because he understood something that most people never learned. Fighting is not about strength, he had told her once when she was just a girl. Fighting is about breaking the other person's expectations. They expect you to do one thing, so you do another. They expect you to go left, so you go right. They expect you to be weak, so you show them strength. They expect you to give up, so you keep going. That is how the small defeat the large. That is how the weak defeat the strong. Elena closed her eyes and breathed deeply. In and out. In and out. She was ready. Evening came. The station lights dimmed to simulate night. Cadets returned to their quarters. But not everyone was sleeping. Word had spread too far. Too many people wanted to see what would happen. When Elena arrived at classroom 14C, she found that a viewing gallery on the upper level was filled with cadets from every species. They sat in the shadows, silent and watching. Even some instructors had come. They pretended not to see the gathering. They pretended not to know what was about to happen. But they were there. They wanted to watch too. Elena walked into the classroom. Someone had pushed the desks and chairs to the sides of the room, leaving a large open space in the center. The lights were bright. The Krethacs were already there. 10 of them stood in a loose group in the middle of the room. Their scales gleamed under the lights. Their claws clicked against the floor. Their yellow eyes fixed on her as she entered. Dexoran stood at the front. He was the biggest of them. His scar looked white against his dark scales. "The human came," he said. There was surprise in his voice. "I thought you might run away." Elena walked to the edge of the open space. She removed her uniform jacket and set it aside. Underneath, she wore only a thin training shirt. Her arms were bare. They looked small next to the Krethacs. "I do not run," she said. Dexoran laughed. The other Krethacs laughed with him. "One human against 10 Krethacs," he said. "This will take seconds. You will be broken before you can even scream." Elena rolled her shoulders. She bounced lightly on her feet. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. The room fell silent. Even the watchers in the gallery held their breath. "You are right," Elena said. Her voice was calm, almost bored. "This will take seconds." She settled into a fighting stance. Low, balanced, ready. The Krethacs spread out around her. 10 pairs of yellow eyes. 10 sets of claws. 10 predators surrounding their prey. But Elena was not prey. She never had been. "Come on then," she said quietly. "Let us finish this." Dexoran snarled and raised his claw. The fight began. 1 week passed at the academy. Elena kept her head down. She went to classes. She took notes. She trained in the physical facilities. She ate alone in the mess hall. She spoke to almost no one, but she watched everything. The academy tested cadets in many ways. There were written exams about strategy and history. There were simulations where cadets commanded virtual fleets. And there were physical assessments where cadets were measured for strength, speed, and endurance. Elena did not score well in strength. The Krethacs could lift 3 times what she could lift. She did not score well in speed either. Several species could run faster than humans over short distances. But in endurance, something strange happened. The test was simple. Cadets ran on a machine that got harder every minute. The machine measured heart rate, oxygen use, and muscle fatigue. When a cadet's body could take no more, the machine stopped automatically. The Krethacs went first. They were impressive. Dexoran lasted 42 minutes before the machine stopped him. He stepped off with a proud smile, barely breathing hard. Then Elena stepped on. She ran. The machine got harder. She kept running. 40 minutes passed. 50 minutes. 60 minutes. The instructor watching the test started to look concerned. 70 minutes. 80 minutes. Finally, after 96 minutes, the instructor manually stopped the test. "The machine does not understand," he said, studying the readings. "Your body was ready to fail. Your muscles were screaming for you to stop. But you did not stop. How?" Elena stepped off the machine. She was covered in sweat. Her legs were shaking, but she was still standing. "Humans do not stop," she said simply. "We are persistent predators. On Earth, our ancestors did not chase prey by being fast. They chased prey by never giving up. They would follow an animal for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. That is what we are. That is what we do. The instructor recorded her results without another word. But Elena saw something in his eyes. Something like surprise. Something like fear. After that day, the other cadets looked at her differently. Not with respect exactly. More like the way you might look at a dangerous animal that you do not understand. Dexoran looked at her with hatred. His position in the academy depended on being the strongest, the best, the most dominant. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be easy to push around. But this human woman had just beaten his endurance, score by more than double. He could not allow that to stand. Elena knew trouble was coming. She could feel it in the air. She could see it in the way the Krethax whispered when she walked past. She could see it in the dark looks Dexoran gave her across the classroom. She was not surprised when someone sat down next to her in the mess hall one evening. She was surprised that it was the Morani from the first day of class. His name was Chitri. He was small, even for a Morani, with a thin body covered in a hard shell and large eyes that reflected the light. The antenna that Dexoran had bent was still crooked. It would never fully heal. "You are the human," he said. His voice was soft and clicking. "Yes," Elena said. "May I sit with you?" Elena looked at him for a moment. Then she nodded. They ate in silence for a while. Around them, the mess hall buzzed with conversation in dozens of alien languages. The Krethax sat at their usual table, loud and boastful. Other species kept their distance from them. "They do not like you," Chitri said finally. "The Krethax. You embarrassed them with the endurance test. I know. They will try to hurt you. I know that too." Chitri made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a cough. "You are not afraid?" Elena thought about the question. She thought about her childhood in Snow Paulo, where gangs fought over street corners and children learned to run before they learned to read. She thought about her grandfather, who had survived 3 wars and still woke up screaming some nights. "I'm always afraid," she said. "Fear keeps you alive. But fear does not control me. I control the fear." Chitri was quiet for a long moment. "I wish I could do that," he said softly. After that night, Chitri began sitting with Elena at meals. He sat near her in class. He walked with her through the corridors. At first, Elena thought he was just looking for protection. But slowly, she realized it was something more. He was lonely. He was far from his homeworld. He had no friends. Neither did she. A strange friendship began to form between them. They did not talk much. They did not need to. Sometimes the best friendships are built on comfortable silence. The Krethax noticed. They did not like it. On the 8th day, Elena was in the training room working on combat forms when she heard a commotion in the corridor outside. She heard Krethax voices laughing. She heard a smaller voice crying out in pain. She ran out of the training room and found them. 4. Krethax had cornered Chitri in a dead-end hallway. Dexoran stood in the front. He had Chitri lifted off the ground by one of his antennae. "Please," Chitri was saying. "Please, I did nothing." "You did something," Dexoran said. "You sat with the human. You became her pet. And now you will learn what happens to pets when their owners are not around to protect them." He twisted the antenna. Chitri screamed. There was a horrible snapping sound, and the antenna broke completely off. Chitri fell to the ground, clutching his head. Clear fluid leaked from the wound where his antenna had been. The Krethax laughed and walked away. They did not even look at Elena as they passed her. She stood frozen for a moment. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something else. Something darker. She went to Chitri and helped him up. She took him to the medical bay. The doctors there fixed what they could, but the antenna was gone forever. Morani used their antennae to sense emotions and communicate with each other. Without it, Chitri would be partially deaf to his own people for the rest of his life. Elena sat with him until he fell asleep. Then she stood up and walked out of the medical bay. Something cold had settled behind her eyes. Her grandfather had a word for it. He called it the quiet before the storm. It was the feeling a soldier got before battle, when all the fear and all the anger condensed into something hard and sharp. Like a blade made of ice. She walked to the mess hall. It was evening mealtime. The room was full. She found Dexorn sitting at his usual table, surrounded by his Kreth-Ax friends. They were laughing about something, probably about what they had done to Chitri. Elena walked up to their table. The laughter stopped. Dexorn looked at her with amusement. "The human. Have you come to beg for mercy for your little pet?" Elena did not blink. Her voice was flat and cold. "Tomorrow," she said. "Classroom 14C. After hours. All of you." The mess hall went silent. Everyone was watching. Dexorn leaned forward. "All of us? There are 10 of us, human. Do you know what you are saying?" "I know exactly what I am saying. Tomorrow. 14C. After hours." She paused. "Unless you are afraid." Dexorn's eyes narrowed. His claws scraped against the table, leaving deep marks in the metal. "We will be there," he said, "and you will learn your place." Elena nodded once. Then she turned and walked away. Behind her, the mess hall exploded into whispers. Word would spread. By tomorrow, everyone would know. 1 human against 10 Kreth-Ax. It was madness. It was suicide. But Elena was not thinking about survival. She was thinking about Chitri lying in the medical bay with a hole in his head, where his antenna used to be. Some things were worth fighting for, even if you could not win. The Kreth-Ax expected Elena to back away. Every species they had ever fought backed away when surrounded. It was instinct. It was survival. Elena did not back away. She moved forward. The Kreth-Ax on the left side of the group was the smallest. He was still huge compared to her, but he was young, and his scales had not fully hardened yet. Elena had noticed him in class. He was always trying to impress Dexorn. He was always a half step behind the others. He was her first target. She ran directly at him. He was not ready. He swung his claws in a wide arc, expecting her to stop and block. She did not stop. She dropped low, sliding under his arm, and drove her elbow into his throat. The throat was soft. Even on a Kreth-Ax, the throat was soft. He made a choking sound and stumbled backward. Elena did not stop to watch him fall. She grabbed his arm and pulled his body between her and the second Kreth-Ax, who was already attacking. The second Kreth-Ax could not stop his swing. His claws raked across his own friend's back instead of Elena's face. The young Kreth-Ax screamed and fell. 2 seconds. 1 down. The room exploded into chaos. The Kreth-Ax roared and charged. But they were not soldiers. They were bullies. They had never faced real resistance. They got in each other's way. They stepped on each other's feet. They blocked each other's attacks. Elena used this. She never stopped moving. She dodged left when they expected her to go right. She dropped low when they swung high. She jumped when they swept at her legs. Her body twisted and bent in ways the Kreth-Ax could not match. Human joints were flexible. Human spines could turn and curve. The Kreth-Ax were strong, but they were stiff. Their powerful bodies worked against them in close quarters. A third Kreth-Ax grabbed for her. She let him catch her arm, then turned into the grab instead of away from it. Her free hand came up and her fingers found his eyes. She pressed hard. He screamed and released her, clutching his face. 3 down. Her heart was pounding now. Adrenaline flooded her system. The chemical humans had evolved over millions of years of hunting and being hunted. It made her faster. It made her stronger. It made the pain in her arm where the Krethax had grabbed her disappear. The Krethax did not have adrenaline. Their bodies were strong, but they did not have this gift. This curse. This fire that burned inside every human when survival was at stake. Elena grabbed the chair and swung it at the fourth Krethax. The metal crashed against his head. He stumbled. She hit him again. He fell. 4 down. The fifth and sixth came together. They were smarter. They coordinated. One attacked high while the other attacked low. Elena could not dodge both. The low one caught her leg and pulled. She fell hard onto her back. The air rushed out of her lungs. For a moment, she could not breathe. The high one raised his clawed foot to stomp on her head. Elena rolled. The foot smashed into the floor where her face had been, cracking the metal plating. She kept rolling, spinning on the ground like a break dancer, sweeping the leg of the Krethax who had grabbed her. He went down. She was on her feet again before he hit the ground. Her leg hurt. Something was torn. She ignored it. The one who had tried to stomp her was off balance from his missed attack. Elena jumped onto a desk and launched herself at him. Her knee caught him in the face. Bone crunched. He roared and swung blindly. She was already gone, rolling over his back and landing behind him. She kicked the back of his knee. It bent the wrong way. He collapsed. 6 down. The remaining 4 Krethax stopped their wild charging. They were breathing hard. Their yellow eyes were wide with something Elena had never seen in them. The 4 fear. They were afraid of her. Good. The 7th came more carefully. He was older than the others, more experienced. He did not swing wildly. He jabbed with his claws, short and controlled, keeping his balance. Elena could not get inside his guard. He was too smart, too careful. So she changed tactics. She stopped the dodging. She let his next jab hit her. His claw cut across her shoulder. Blood splashed onto the floor. Red human blood, so different from the blue-green blood of the Krethax. But Elena did not scream. She did not fall. She smiled. The Krethax hesitated. Why was she smiling? Why was she not afraid? In that moment of hesitation, Elena struck. Her fist drove into the soft tissue under his arm where there were no scales. Her other hand grabbed his snout and twisted. His head turned. His body followed. She used his own weight to throw him to the ground. 7 down. The 8th ran at her with a roar. No more caution. No more strategy. Just rage. That was a mistake. Rage made you strong, but rage made you stupid. Elena sidestepped his charge and stuck out her foot. He tripped and flew forward, crashing into a desk that collapsed under his weight. Before he could rise, she picked up a piece of broken metal and brought it down on the back of his head. 8 down. The 9th looked at his fallen friends. He looked at Elena, bleeding and panting but still standing. He looked at the door. He ran. Elena let him go. One less to fight. 9 down. Only Vexoran remained. He had not attacked yet. He had stayed back, letting the others tire her out. Now he stepped forward, cracking his neck and flexing his claws. You are impressive, he admitted. For a human. But you are hurt. You are tired. And I am not like the others. I am Vexoran, son of war leader Krexoran. I have killed enemies twice your size. Elena wiped blood from her face. Her shoulder was burning. Her leg was screaming. She was not sure how much longer she could stand, but she was still standing. That was what mattered. Then stop talking, she said, and fight. Vexoran attacked. He was fast. Faster than the others. His claws were a blur. Elena blocked what she could and dodged what she could not. But she was slowing down. Her body was failing. His claw caught her side. Pain exploded through her ribs. She gasped but did not fall. He came again. She ducked under his swing and hit him in the stomach. Her fist bounced off his scales. It was like punching a wall. He laughed and grabbed her arm. His grip was iron. She could not escape. "Foolish human," he said. "Did you really think you could defeat me?" He pulled her close. His claws dug into her arm. Blood ran down to her fingers. Elena looked up at him. Her face was pale. Her body was shaking, but she was still smiling. "You talk too much," she said, and she headbutted him directly on the snout. Human skulls were thick. Krethak's snouts were full of sensitive nerve endings. Dexorn screamed and released her, clutching his face. Blood poured from his nostrils. His eyes were watering. For a moment, he could not see. Elena did not waste the moment. She hit him again. And again. And again. Her fists drove into every soft spot she could find. His throat. Under his arms. The joints of his knees. She was too tired to be clever now. She just kept hitting. Dexorn stumbled backward. He tried to swing at her, but she ducked under and hit him again. He tried to grab her, but she twisted away and hit him again. Finally, she jumped up and drove her knee into his chin with every bit of strength she had left. His head snapped back. His eyes rolled up. He fell. 10 down. Elena stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by fallen Krethaks. She was covered in blood, hers and theirs. Her body hurt in places she could not count. Her vision was getting dark around the edges, but she was still standing. The viewing gallery was completely silent. Dozens of cadets stared down at her with expressions of pure shock. Then a sound came from somewhere in the crowd. A clicking, chirping sound. Chitri was there, standing at the front of the gallery with a bandage still wrapped around his head. He was making the sound that Marani made when they celebrated. Others joined in. Different sounds from different species. Cheering, clapping, stomping, feet. The room filled with noise. Elena looked up at the gallery. She saw Chitri. She saw Marcus and Jin. She saw instructors and cadets and people she did not know. She tried to smile. Then her legs gave out and everything went black. Elena woke up in the medical bay. White ceiling. Soft lights. The hum of machines all around her. Her body felt strange. Heavy and light at the same time. They had given her painkillers, she realized. Strong ones. She turned her head and saw Chitri sitting in a chair beside her bed. His remaining antenna twitched when he noticed she was awake. "You are alive," he said. There was relief in his clicking voice. "Apparently," Elena said. Her throat was dry. "How long was I out?" 16 hours. The doctors repaired your injuries. 3 broken ribs. A torn muscle in your leg. Deep cuts on your arm and shoulder. Internal bruising." He paused. "They said a normal human would have collapsed much sooner. They do not understand how you kept fighting." Elena almost laughed. Then she remembered her ribs and stopped. "Humans are stubborn," she said. "We do not know when to quit." Chitri was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You fought them for me. You could have died. Why?" Elena thought about the question. She thought about her grandfather. She thought about her childhood in Snow Hollow. She thought about all the times she had been hurt and all the times she had survived. "Because someone had to," she said finally. "Because no one else would. Because that is what you do when you care about someone." Chitri made a soft sound. Among the Morani, it meant something close to thank you, but deeper. It meant, "I will remember this forever." The door to the medical bay opened and a Velkari officer entered. He had gray skin and 4 arms and markings on his uniform that showed high rank. Behind him came 2 guards. "Cadet Vasquez," he said. "I am Admiral Vexrani, commandant of this academy. Can you walk?" Elena tested her legs. They hurt, but they held her weight. "Yes, sir. Then come with me." She followed the Admiral through the corridors of the station. Cadets stopped and stared as she passed. Some pointed. Some whispered. A few nodded with something like respect. The Admiral led her to a large office overlooking the stars. He sat behind a massive desk covered with screens and documents. He gestured for her to sit. "Do you know why you are here?" he asked. "To be expelled," Elena said. "Or punished." The Admiral was silent for a moment. Then he did something she did not expect. He laughed. "Expelled? Punished?" He shook his head. "Cadet Vasquez, what you did was perfectly legal. The Krethak's tradition of placement challenges is recognized by Academy rules. They challenge you. You responded. Everything that happened was within regulations." Elena blinked. "Then why am I here?" The Admiral turned one of his screens toward her. On it was a file filled with text and images. Human military history, she realized. Battles and wars and soldiers from Earth. "I have been reading about your species," he said. "Fascinating people, humans. You have been at war with yourselves for your entire existence. Your history is written in blood. We thought this was a weakness, a sign that your species was primitive and self-destructive." He paused. "We were wrong." Elena said nothing. She waited. "What you did in that classroom," the Admiral continued, "was not supposed to be possible. One small female human against 10 Kreth warriors. Every calculation said you should have lost. Every prediction said you would be defeated in the first minute. But you won." He leaned forward. "How?" Elena thought carefully before answering. "The Krethaks are strong. They are fast. They are good fighters. But they have only ever fought species who fight like them. They do not know how to fight something different. Humans are different. We do not fight fair. We do not fight with honor. We fight to win. And we do not stop fighting until we cannot move anymore." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Persistence predators. That is what your file calls your species. You chase your prey until it dies from exhaustion. You do not win by being stronger. You win by never giving up." "Yes, sir." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "The Galactic Union has been at peace for 200 years. But that peace is fragile. There are threats on our borders. Enemies who watch and wait. Someday, we may need soldiers who do not fight fair, who do not follow the old rules, who never stop fighting." He looked at her with something like hope. "Someday, we may need humans." Elena did not know what to say. She had come to this academy to learn and to serve. She had not expected this. The Admiral stood. "Return to your quarters, Cadet. Rest. Heal. When you are ready, return to class. I expect great things from you." Elena stood and saluted. Then she left Dot in the corridor outside. She found someone waiting for her. Dex single quotes Oran. He looked terrible. His snout was wrapped in bandages. His scales were covered in healing patches. He moved stiffly, like every step hurt. Elena stopped. Her muscles tensed. Was he here for revenge? But Dexoran did not attack. Instead, he raised his clawed hand and pressed it to his chest. Among the Krethaks, this was a gesture of acknowledgement. It meant, "You have proven yourself worthy. You fought well," he said. His voice was rough, probably from the damage to his throat. "I was wrong about humans. I was wrong about you." Elena was surprised. She had not expected this. "Thank you," she said carefully. "We are not friends," Dexoran added. "I do not know if we can ever be friends. But I will not bother you or your companions again. You have earned that much." He turned and walked away, limping slightly. Elena watched him go. Then she continued to her quarters. The next week, she returned to classroom 14C. Everything had changed. Before, She had sat alone in the back corner. Now, when she entered, she found cadets from multiple species saving her a seat near the middle of the room. Chitri was there. So were Marcus and Jin, but also a Thrall she did not know, and 2 Morani, and even a young Velkari student who had been too afraid to speak to her before. The Krethaks were still there too. But they did not sit in the center anymore. They did not spread out to take all the space. They sat together in one section and did not bother anyone. The instructor called on Elena to discuss tactical doctrine. A month ago, this would have been met with laughter and dismissal. Now, the room was silent. Everyone listened. When class ended, Chitri walked with her through the corridor. "How did you know you could win?" he asked. "When you challenged them." "How did you know?" Elena thought about the question. She thought about that night in the mess hall. She thought about the fear she had felt and the anger and the cold determination. "I did not know," she said honestly. "I thought I might lose. I thought they might beat me badly. But I challenged them anyway." Chitri's antenna twitched in confusion. "Why? If you did not think you could win, why fight?" Elena stopped walking. She looked out a window at the stars stretching endlessly in every direction. "Because some things are worth fighting for," she said. "Even if you lose. Even if you get hurt. Even if everyone thinks you are crazy. Some things matter more than winning or losing. You are my friend, Chitri. They hurt you. I could not let that stand. Win or lose, I had to try." Chitri was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "I do not fully understand, but I think I'm beginning to." Elena smiled and put her hand on his shoulder. "That is okay. You have time to learn." They continued walking through the station. Around them, cadets from 100 species went about their daily lives. Most did not look at Elena. Some did. A few even nodded. Word was spreading, not just through the station, but beyond. Stories about the human who had fought 10 Krethaks alone. Stories about the species that did not know when to stop. In bars and barracks across the galaxy, people were starting to talk about humans. They were starting to wonder. They were starting to worry. Because what the Krethaks had learned that day in Classroom 14C was something the entire galaxy would eventually discover. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong. Humans were not dangerous because they were fast. Humans were not dangerous because they were smart or skilled or well-equipped. Humans were dangerous because they simply did not stop. No matter how much it hurt, no matter how bad the odds, no matter what stood in their way, they kept fighting. They kept surviving. They kept going forward. And in a galaxy full of ancient species and powerful empires and forces beyond counting, that made humans the most terrifying thing of all. Because you could not defeat an enemy that refused to be defeated. You could only hope they were on your side.